Well, we want you to stick around. We have a very important topic we're going to be talking about right after the break. Did you know 1 in 5 children will develop a mental health diagnosis, the warning signs, and where you can go for help? That's next on Sonoran Living. Mental illness is a devastating disease, especially if you're a child. As a parent, how do you know when to seek professional help? And what are the suicidal warning signs and risk factors? Here to help is Janelle Westfall. She is a licensed professional counselor at Devereux Arizona Health, Arizona. And she's written an article in this month's edition of Arizona Parenting Magazine. It is a fascinating read, and you're here to speak to this topic. Thank you so much for being with us this morning. I want to start with the biggest stigma surrounding childhood mental illness.
Yes, there is a stigma out there, and we need to try to eliminate that. People sometimes tend to think that a child has chosen it, or they're bad, or they've done something to deserve it, or a parent actually has a stigma and they think that maybe someone's going to blame them, that they did something wrong, that they parented in such a way that their child has ADHD or an anxiety disorder, which just is not the case.
And then they want to isolate the kid because they don't want their friends to find out. So what are some of those warning signs that as a parent we should be looking for?
Sure. Well, any child, as you know, as a parent, they go through different developmental phases and stages. So just because a child has a challenging behavior does not mean that they have a disorder. But when you want to start really paying attention is if you see a sudden or intense change in behavior. You start to see mood swings, and they isolate more, and they don't have friends, and it starts to affect their daily living, like at school, friendship, social, emotional activities. Then you know that something's just not quite right.
Right, it's not adding up, and you really want to stress to families, you're not alone in this battle.
No, you're not alone. And why is it that if your child has a medical disorder, then you're more apt to go seek help? But if they have a mental health disorder, you don't. And you know that 7% of kids are diagnosed with ADHD, 3.5% have current diagnoses of oppositional or conduct type disorders, 1% with autism, 1 in 5, like you said, of children actually will develop a mental health diagnosis per the CDC. That's 20% of all children and adolescents.
In a class, my kids just went to school yesterday. There's 25 kids in their class, so 5 of those children, and that's a gamut of different mental health issues. It's not just schizophrenia. I mean, we're talking about autism. We're talking about a number of things. It could be
anxiety disorders.
Okay, and up to 20% of children, up to 20% under the age of 18.
Isn't that amazing?
That is alarming.
It's not rare, so you're not alone. Parents need to understand that they really aren't alone, and they just need to seek out some assistance.
And when should we seek that professional help?
Well, one very alarming thing would be if your child is ever talking about wanting to hurt themselves or wanting to kill themselves. That's not typical, so you do need to seek out support immediately if your child is talking about wanting to die or commit suicide.
Okay.
If there's severe mood changes, lots of crying and anger and aggression, then you're going to also want to seek assistance pretty quickly.
And where can parents go for help? Because a lot of people, like you said, they suffer in silence. But once they make that decision that I do want to get professional help, where should they go?
There's some really great places. Sometimes people forget their pediatrician is a phenomenal place to start. They can give you referrals to places in your area. Another one, school's starting up, right? You can talk to your school counselor, your school psychologist at your district. They'll have a list of people that you can reach out to. And contact your insurance provider to see who's an approved provider on your list. And you know, an important thing is that do not feel bad about interviewing a provider. Not every provider is going to be a great match for your family.
Very good point.
So absolutely interview a provider and ask them, what therapeutic techniques do you use? What theoretical orientation? What are you going to do with my child for their ADHD? And many times it could be just short-term strategies.
All right, well, we want to give you some information, some additional information. If you want to find help and you want to read Janelle's article on childhood mental illness, we encourage you to pick up a copy of this month's edition of Arizona Parenting Magazine at azparenting.com. The article is in the center section there. You can also go on, read it online as well, but it's a fascinating read and an important one.
Gosh, who knew? You know,
right?
you know, when you're a parent and you're at that point, you're just, you're devastated. So good tips and information. Thank you very much. Also want to make sure that you tune in tonight right here to ABC 15. We have the Men Tell All tonight. You know, we're having a discussion about that tomorrow morning. You do know that, right?
We'll see you back here tomorrow.
Bye-bye.